Settling into Le Cordon Bleu, Paris, was an adventure in and of itself. I was charmed by the structure, the ambiance, the rich history of the institution that seemed to dance on the antique walls. Even the air seemed heavy with culinary excitement, as I recognized the mingling essences of simmering sauces, baking pastries, and an undernote I could only label as ambition. The atmosphere was an intoxicating blend, redolent with the spirit of many a culinary genius that had walked these corridors. Could there possibly be any place better to quench my thirst for spirits and wines? That's where I met Damien. He wasn't your typical culinary student. His thick, curly hair was often unkempt, his glasses constantly perched on the brink of his freckled nose, and incomparable enthusiasm seeped through his every word when he spoke about spirits. We became fast friends, drawn by our mutual passion for mixology and the unwavering tunes of adventure that pulled our heartstrings. Similar interests and pursuits made our bond stronger as our explorations of the gastronomic world deepened and intertwined. One evening, in the more intimate setting of a small local bistro, our friendship took an unexpected turn. A soft jazz melody lingered in the candle-lit air as we pored over wine lists, our discussions about unique blends spilling over the rim of the glasses we'd tasted. As I listened to Damien crafting intricate narratives around the aromas, the flavors, and the origins of the wine we were sampling, I did not notice his gaze lingering on me with new intensity. By the time I realized the change in our dynamic, it was too late. Our fingers were already entwined over that shared glass. It was then we moved from fellow students to something more, explorers not just in the world of mixology, but also in the world of close-knit friendship transforming into affection. As the weeks passed, our exciting forays into the world of gastronomy stopped being solitary escapades and started becoming a shared adventure. Birthday surprises often left a lingering taste of traditional French wine on our tongues, as Damien's unerring choice always managed to introduce me to a new, delightful blend. I still remember how he confided in me about his insecurities of speaking English when we were strolling along the Seine. His vulnerability touched me, and I was moved by his ability to open up. And in the process, he became my comfort zone in the foreign land, the port in my storm. At times like these, conversations flew between us like mixology recipes, thrilling and endless. Valentine's Day was a highlight of our sweet chronology, a memorable dinner where the rich Bordeaux sent shivers down my spine and lit a flame in my heart for French wines. I saw my reflection dance in the glow of the votive candle flame, but my focus was transfixed on the animation sweeping across Damien's face as he passionately explained the importance of choosing the right wine for our coq au vin. No French class could have given me the insights into the French way of life, wine, and love as Damien did that night. As I listened to him, the sparkle in his eyes mirrored the stars outside, setting the scene for a night to remember. The moon whispered romantic sonatas, and we danced to the music of our hearts, the connection between us growing stronger, a bond intensely sweet and surprisingly powerful. However, despite the majority of our shared times being filled with delectable dishes and soul-stirring spirits, not all of our memories were dipped in rosy hues of wine. The disagreements were sparse but poignant, creating an undercurrent of tension that would soon grow into a tumultuous wave. Unknowingly, our differing life philosophies began sowing unseen seeds of discord, tarnishing our well-woven tapestry of gastronomic passions and questioning the longevity of our blissful convergence. By the time summer arrived, blooming with flowers and escalating our fairy tale romance, our differences became more visible, jutting out uncomfortably. Every date began to etch in stark relief the increasing contrast of our opinions and outlooks on life. Be it his disinterest in fusion cuisines or his grave disregard for the slightest mixological error, which I considered as stepping stones to learning, our worldviews started clashing. All our interactions felt like an ill-fitted jigsaw puzzle, as if our personalities, instead of complementing each other, were pieces from two entirely different sets. I noticed how our shared dreams of culinary exploration started getting clouded by trivial disputes, evolving into heated debates. Damien, measured and practical, believed in sticking to the age-old practices of gastronomy, whereas I, ever the dreamer, dared to believe in challenging norms and pushing boundaries. Our conflicts arose from our vastly differing ideologies. While Damien was a firm believer of the traditional, I was a dreamer who thrived on innovation and dynamic changes. My attraction towards innovative mixology and culinary approaches were often met with skepticism by Damien, creating a sense of tension and discord. Repeated arguments based on these differences made it clear that our individual aspirations were drawing us apart like opposing magnets. Conversations of introducing his favored traditional French cooking methods in our hypothetical cafe would often end in heated disagreements, souring our sweet bond. The very differences which made our union exciting in the beginning eventually turned into bitter disagreements, as we were persistently headed in different directions. I remember vividly, it was raining heavily one December evening when our conflict peaked. Damien's disapproval of my mixology experiment and reluctance to embrace my adventurous culinary ideas became a trigger point of our argument. As cold droplets slapped against the window panes, the harsh words hurled in that enclosed space assumed a sharp edge, evoking an emotional storm within me. Despite the comforting pitter-patter of the rain outside, the mood in our shared apartment at Rue Paul Albert was anything but soothing. For the first time, I found myself questioning the compatibility of our dreams and our capacity to sustain as a team in the long run, a question that kept me awake on many cold Paris nights to follow. The rise in discontent was evident in our communication, which mirrored the turbulent Parisian weather outside, filled with thunderstorms and cold winds. Just as summer died down and the soft haze of autumn started to wrap Paris in its amber charm, we decided, out of silent agreement, to break up. Our love story, like our favorite wine that had warmed countless evenings, had reached its climax and was slowly turning acidic. Parties that were once lit by our shared laughter and intimately whispered secrets were now clouded by an awkward hollowness. Damien's disapproval of my pursuit in fusion mixology was not a mere difference in passion anymore, but a hole in the fabric of our relationship that seemed impossible to mend. The day we chose to finally part ways, the skies of Paris mirrored the melancholy in my heart with their somber gray rain clouds. A final, solemn dinner was our last endeavor to honor our shared memories, his favorite petit chablis gracing what could have been a last peace offering. Yet, sitting there across Damien, I couldn't help but feel our differences looming over us like an insurmountable wall. He in his stern adherence to tradition, and I, in my ceaseless quest for innovative mixology, seemed like opposite banks of a river destined to never meet. Despite the heavy silence that hung between us, there were moments of genuine affection, like a montage of beautiful flashbacks. His illuminating discussions about the virtues of traditional French gastronomy, our exciting trips to vineyards, every sip of wine we savored, all seemed to revisit me. I could still hear the clinking of our glasses echoing our once-shared dreams about running a bespoke cocktail bar, now feeling like a distant echo lost in time. Still, even as my heart ached for that loss, a part of me knew that this separation was necessary. It was not just about a romantic relationship tearing at its seams, but about two culinary devotees refusing to compromise on their unique paths. Damien's criticism pushed me to question my vision, and in doing so, I found that my quest for fusion culinary and unconventional mixology practices was not frivolous, but a genuine expression of my vibrant personality. My journey had to go on, regardless of our romantic upheavals. The silent, tear-streaked agreement of our breakup was not just the end of our love story, but perhaps the beginning of a new chapter of individual growth and self-discovery. As the days passed post-breakup, I seemed suspended in a whirlpool of melancholy, my dreams in turmoil. Yet, I clung on to memories of Damien and me during our better times, replaying the laughter and joyous banter that once illuminated our lives. The pangs of heartbreak only intensified with each memory, and it became more than just a personal matter. As an aspiring mixologist, my relationship saga was intertwined with my career aspirations, the fusion of personal and professional upheavals morphing into a complex cocktail of emotions. During this phase, every vision of a wine bottle reminded me of Damien's teachings, attached strings pulling my heart each time. Our shared passion for winemaking, our explorations of vineyards and evenings spent under the soft glow of fairy lights, studying the oaky undertones or the fruity hints in every sip of wine, it was all too recent to forget. It would take more than time to erase his memory, more than words to express the conjugated influence of love and heartbreak on my work. With every passing day, I felt an escalating battle, a war within me. My heart yearned for those joyous moments, the mirthful whispers, and the emotional attachment that was a byproduct of love. On the other hand, my mind recognized that the differences between us were far more complex than just diverging professional views. Every shared smile had hidden trepidations, every shared glass of wine, a clash of ideologies. Our passionate debates on fusion mixology versus orthodox methods, our exchanges of varied philosophies seemed to have laid the blueprints for our eventual parting. Throughout this emotional turbulence, I grappled with my own visions for my future in the culinary world. Losing Damien, I lost more than just a romantic partner. I lost a confidant, a fellow enthusiast, and above all, a critic who challenged me. Yet within this loss was my gain of a stronger conviction, a determination to pursue fusion mixology in spite of the criticism. And there I was, lodged in the deep abyss of despair, simultaneously battling heartbreak and an inevitable professional revolution. My present seemed overwhelmingly heartbreaking and my future ominously challenging. The monumental task of reconfiguring my dreams lay ahead of me, daunting and massive. But I found solace in an unknown realm of resilience, a hidden wellspring of strength and determination. The heartache, as agonizing as it was, gifted me the ability to envision a future beyond criticism, a tapestry of my unique culinary and mixology journey. The ritual of making and serving cocktails began to change for me. The once invigorating activity tinged with Damien's teachings now reverberated with the echoes of his absence. Yet with each shaker I picked, each ice cube I carved, and every new flavor I experimented with, I realized the intertwined relationship between my personal life and my professional goals. Deep within, I knew that our shared vision for fusion mixology, acknowledging global culinary practices while innovating with conventional techniques, would continue to inspire me. I found a kindling ember in the hollow cavity of my heartache, a spark which pushed me to embrace the silence of my workspace, replacing the interfering doubts with fervor for my bartending craft. Each time I remember the clink of glasses, accentuated with our laughter, my heart would throb with our shared history. It reminded me of our debates on the essence of European wines and the mystical Oriental flavors. The memories sometimes brought a wave of melancholic nostalgia, a painful grin, but it was slowly becoming a past that I was learning to look at with gratitude. My aspirations as a mixologist weren't dwarfed in the shadow of our lost love. They were, on the contrary, magnified. Within myself, I discovered a resolve to mix my personal experiences with the wide spectrum of spirits, conjuring a symphony of tastes as convoluted as my life's journey. As the echoes of Damien's laughter softened, I found solace in the sacred space behind my countertop, my sanctuary, an embodiment of my passion for mixology. Every ingredient meant more than just a taste enhancer. It was a metaphor for life's experiences, for the emotions that add layers to our being, making us complex and rich as humans. Now, as I swirled the wine or shook the spirits, I found a different rhythm to my craft. It was no longer restricted to the conventions taught by professors or rules prescribed by tradition-bound manuals. I wouldn't suppress the rumbling echoes left by the past. Instead, I would embrace them, infuse them in my work, turning every scar into a star. This was the art of healing, transforming heartbreak into hardcore motivation, deciding to be the bartender who paints a canvas of experiences in a cocktail glass. I began to appreciate the very essence of solitude. Embracing the silence wasn't easy, but I learned. I learned to absorb the calm of my surrounding and make it my armor against the turbulent storm of my emotions. The empty corner of our shared table in the class felt like a gaping void, but it reminded me, rather harshly, of the bigger picture that was getting sidetracked. Damien was an enchanting chapter in my life, but he wasn't my entire book. I realized that my journey had always been about more than a lost love. It was about the passion for my craft, my thirst for knowledge, and my unquenched curiosity to unlock the mystic realm of spirits. I looked at my reflection in the shiny cocktail shaker, mirroring an image of a stronger, more resilient person who was still enthusiastic about the art of mixing liquors. This was not the end of my journey. It was but a pit stop that required me to tighten the loose ends, rediscover my passionate fervor, and continue driving. I began to pour my emotions into my work. Each glass of cocktail that I mixed was a tribute to my journey, a journey that was colored by sweet triumphs and bitter heartbreaks, just like the intoxicating blend of my cocktails. As the wine swirled in the glass, I saw a dance of life echoing my own twists and turns. and with each serving, I shed my vulnerability and embraced my newfound maturity. My workplace was no longer just an ensemble of gleaming glasses and spirits. It was my stage, my canvas, where I played the lead, directed the drama, and painted the hues of my experiences. Each cocktail that I made was a performance, a reflection of my multicultural life story. The resonance of this period didn't dampen the spirits of my profession, but on the contrary, stirred a sense of undying passion within me. In the silence of my workplace, I found my voice. I transformed my solitude into solace, my heartbreak into creativity, and thus, undoubtedly, every memory of Damien came to signify a stepping stone, each leading me towards my dream. My story was far from over, it was only beginning. A beginning of a newer journey, one that was unadulterated by heartbreak and fierce in its pursuit of unachieved dreams.